Thank you. So welcome back, everybody. My name's Carlos. I'm the product manager here at Aruba. It's good to see familiar faces from when we did this in January, and I'm here to give you guys a little bit of an update as to what we've been doing specifically on the ClearPass side of things. So let's get straight to it. We are going to be doing a series of demos, and happy to take any questions during the session as well. So just as a bit of a refresher for people to understand where ClearPass fits into a network architecture, if we look up on the screens, we see we've got our policy manager there, a centralized policy definition point, which talks to existing identity stores that you may have. So whether that's an Active Directory, whether it's an LDAP, we can actually talk to SQL databases for authentication and authorization, which a lot of corporates use for asset registers and for other bits and pieces. So we can tap into multiple of those sources for doing the authentication and authorization onto the network. We then have our policy enforcement points. So these are our switches, our controllers, any sort of a NAS device which we can signal to actually enforce an ACL or a firewall policy or a VLAN or whatever it might be. And I do want to stress that the ClearPass solution is completely multi-vendor in terms of interoperability. Just saying you support 802.1x does not make you interoperable with multiple manufacturers. So we've got that proven at all sorts of customers with multi-vendor networks around the world. And then we obviously have our users and our endpoints, right? So whether it's people bringing their personal devices, whether it's your guest access. But I also want to point out that the ClearPass solution can deal with headless devices such as printers or VoIP telephones or cameras that you may have. So the idea being that that you can really use it to authenticate and authorize any sort of device onto the network. So let's keep going down here. These are the three key concepts that I want to talk to you about today, and actually, show you a few demos of how ClearPass, works or brings some benefit in each of those scenarios. So number one is device visibility and context, right? So the more you can see about what's out there, the more you know what's out there, the easier it is to take a security decision, to trigger a workflow for an onboarding, send an enforcement policy to a particular device. And we're going to give you guys a demo of the profiling capabilities that we have in ClearPass, which we didn't show you in January when you were here last time. So we're going to run through a bit of a demo on that. One of the other key things that we see for access in today's sort of environments or today's networks is really having a rich and powerful provisioning and captive portal registration environment. So whether this is for employee onboarding, whether this is for sponsoring a guest onto your network, whether this is sharing MDNS or Bonjour devices across the network so that you allow people to project to different screens or access AirPlay devices. Bala's going to give us a demo of that later on this afternoon. So through the Amigo pod technology, ClearPass has such a rich captive portal environment that really allows us to create all kinds of customized environments. And finally, the policy definition point, which is able to consume all of that context that we feed it to allow you to layer those sophisticated policies and be able to automate as much of the enforcement as possible onto the network. So if we can profile and get a lot of context about these devices, then we can, with a high degree of certainty or security, say, okay, well, I'll let you get onto this part of the network, or I'll let you get onto that part of the network. So let's have a look at the profiling. So this is just a couple of screenshots. I'm going to connect to one of our live systems now, just to show you how we're profiling all kinds of devices on the network. We're categorizing them. If we drill down a little bit further, you can actually see additional context that we get about a particular device. So in this case, we're getting serial numbers and IMIE numbers and things like that. And one of the things that I want to point out is that all of this context that we get into the policy manager, we're actually able to use in policy derivation, right? So it's no good being able to go and do an Nmap scan and discover some device out there, but then not actually be able to use any of that information to derive a policy and to let somebody onto the network. A couple of other things just to show you there, for example, going out via SNMP and discovering printers. So we support CDP, LLDP, SNMP, so we can go out and discover devices that maybe aren't getting DHCP address, that have got static IPs, that are in different parts of the network. So this is for wireless and for wired devices that are connecting in. So let's actually just connect to one of our systems here internally. So if we scroll down the list here, let's have a look. So we've got a few storage devices on the network. We've obviously got some access points from Aruba and a couple of others. Desktop computers, we're already seeing a few Windows 8 laptops and devices here on the network. If we go into, say, smart devices, let's have a look at some Androids here. We've got the various varieties. So you can see that we're categorizing all of this stuff automatically. Now, one of the other things that I do want to stress is that our profiler works out of the box. You don't actually have to go and configure, well, DHCP fingerprinting has a higher weighting than a user agent that has a higher weighting than something else. We've constructed all of that logic inside the system. So you point your DHCP helper addresses at the system, and bang, it'll start populating this. You fill in SNMP, private and public community strings, bang, it'll go out and start discovering things. So from a setup perspective, it works out of the box. Yes?
Can we tune those if we want to change them? If we pick up that a new OUI is on for Apple for the new iPhone 5, can we change it and adjust that before you guys have it rolled out?
So at this stage, no. That is something that we are going to be working on. We do have a mechanism for customers and partners to feed us either custom fingerprints that they have from devices that they've manufactured themselves or whatever, in that sort of scenario. We actually have an online connection where each policy manager will download updates periodically. You can tune to do it daily or weekly or whatever it is. But at the moment, we're the ones that are providing those fingerprints, but we are working on a way to enable customers to kind of override that, which I guess is what you're sort of looking at.
Is it you're classifying all iPhones as an iPhone, or can I classify them to iPhone 1, 2, 3, etc.?
Oh, absolutely. So let me show you here, Apple. So we actually already break that sort of stuff down for you, right? And this is, what we're showing you here is also really what we're getting passively from these devices getting onto the network. When actually the devices go through the whole onboarding process and we query the operating system directly, we get a ton more information about it. So that's kind of what I was going to just show you guys there. If I go down here to say a Motorola and down here a little bit further, see a known device. Okay, oh, sorry, not that one. That one hasn't been onboarded yet. So let's have a look here, for example. Okay, so we see, in this example, this device has been onboarded. So we get all of this kind of information. You can't get that from a DHCP fingerprint. It just doesn't happen, or from other kinds of techniques. So, what this allows us to do, though, is create policies that say, I'm going to allow you to onboard an Android 4 device, but not an Android 2 or 2.3 or 2, whatever it might be. Yep. So we do, categorize all of that stuff, on behalf of our customers. Okay. Any other questions around here? You can see that as well. We've got routers, we've got VoIP telephones, printers. So again, it's not just about BYOD devices. A couple of other important points: we can profile devices on any vendor's network, right? So this doesn't have to come through the Aruba controller in order for us to fingerprint. We can do this on any vendor's technology, wired, wireless, or even, I guess, devices that come in via VPN as well. Okay, so let's come back to a couple of slides here. Right, so what that allows us to do is to build policies that allow us to leverage that context, as I mentioned. So here's a very simple example. If the device is an Apple or iOS device, and from an authorization perspective, the person onboarding it belongs to the management group in our corporate directory, then we're going to signal a role which is called BYOD Executive iOS. And that role may have access to some internal applications, may have a certain bandwidth criteria, things like that. But we can really construct these very, very fine-grained and layered policies. And we actually have a whole database-driven kind of a menu infrastructure. So all of that information that comes into the system is then available to you through these series of drop-downs, and you can construct some very interesting logic, or some multi-layered kind of logic. So that's great. You know, we can create these really sophisticated policies. We can automate a lot of the onboarding side of things. But you know, we also want to show you a couple of things that we've got that we're working on at the moment. And I'll get to that in just a second. So as part of this whole onboarding process, one of the other components that I wanted to stress is that we've got a built-in certificate authority inside the solution, right? It's enterprise grade. It allows us to, you know, supports OCSP, CRL, all of these kinds of things, and it's built right in. So if we want to talk about bringing enterprise class features, you know, down into the mid-market, a whole series of customers out there would not have a PKI infrastructure installed, would not necessarily contemplate doing it because, you know, it requires certain technical skills, admin, people, you know, are scared in general of certs. So we've built one of those right into the system. It's very, very easy to set up, and it's obviously tied very closely with our entire onboarding capabilities. And, you know, by having our own CA, what it allows us to do, apart from make it easier for customers, it allows us to embed all of this context that we get inside the actual digital certificates. So if you look here at the subject, you know, line inside that cert, you'll notice that we're embedding in there the, you know, the serial number of the device, the IMIE number of the device, the model number, obviously the employee who onboarded that device. And guess what? We can leverage all of that context at the time of authentication and authorization of that device because we can inspect the contents of that certificate. So not only is it built in, but it allows us to manipulate the way that the certs are generated and the information we put in there, which gives you, you know, gives the admins a bit more flexibility. We've got full context-based search in the whole thing as well, so you can just look up a username or look up a serial number or look up any of the pieces of information that are inside this certificate and bang, instantly find that user if you want to revoke it, if you want to force a reauthorization or something along those lines.
If the customer already has their own PKI, do you lose any functionality then by using their own PKI?
Right, so so we support being an intermediate authority, so you can have the server cert signed by an existing PKI, loaded on here, and then we can still, you know, inject and embed all of that context into the device. But that's only when we're issuing the certificate, right? If you're a registration authority or doing SCEP proxy or something like that, then you actually lose control of the PKI essentially, of being able to inject that. So you wouldn't be able to get some of that context inside the cert. You'd still obviously generate certs that are valid for authentication and things like that. So that's just a little bit about the built-in PKI that we have, and again, I think, you know, we're you know, the only vendor in the industry that has this built into their onboarding solution. So now let's talk about a little bit more about context and some of the new things that we've got coming up. So obviously, we get asked a lot of questions about, you know, managing devices and MDM and these sorts of things. And we've already had a series of capabilities in our solution around onboarding devices and, you know, configuring the supplicant, VPN, ActiveSync, all those sorts of things. But obviously, if you've got a piece of software installed on a device, you've got a lot more access to information about that device. And, you know, a lot of our customers that are issuing corporate issued devices and want to take them under full management, they, you know, want to be able to leverage some of the information and context about those devices into the policy manager to be able to, you know, trigger different sorts of policies. So we thought, okay, well, that's a good idea. We want to consume as much context as possible. So let's see if we can start feeding the policy manager with additional context. So if we have a look at now an endpoint table, which is being fed information from an MDM provider, we see we've got a whole lot of different information there around, you know, last check-in and the applications that are installed on it, and is it jailbroken, all of these different types of context, which allow us to build policies, again, as I was showing you earlier, I showed you earlier, very simple, you know, is it an Apple device and does the person belong to the management group? Well, now I can actually, you know, build policies over, you know, is it jailbroken? Does it have a blacklisted application? You know, is it employee owned or is it a BYOD device? And, you know, lead to, you know, sort of doing something like this. Hey, your device is blacklisted, you know, or sorry, your device is being jailbroken, so you can't get on the network. So this is something that, you know, really ties in with our profiling story in terms of being able to collect all of that context. And, you know, we'll be releasing this later in the year, along with our, you know, with the 6.0 release of the ClearPass Policy Manager.
Can you comment on which MDM providers you're planning on working with?
Absolutely. They're all in the Gartner Magic Quadrant for MDM.
So hundreds.
We, out of respect to our partners, we'll make that announcement when we release the technology. But I can assure you, you know all of them. They're all in the Magic Quadrant, and we'll be expanding those as we move forward. It's important to understand as well. Different vendors are at different levels with their APIs and the accessibility that you have as well. So that sort of limits a couple of things that you can do. So let's sort of jump into one of our. Where are we here? Sorry. One of our dev controls. So you can see here, if I tap into here, you'll be able to see, the information that we're getting. So I just wanted to show you guys this on a live box so that you didn't think that I was just photoshopping and PowerPointing my way through the slide. We have a look through here and see, all of that kind of information that we're getting. So, we're pretty excited about being able to bring this to the market. Go and have a look here. So we even get carrier information, all sorts of things like that. So it's a great new addition to getting all of this context out of these devices, and we think it's something that our customers have been asking us quite a bit about, and we're very happy to obviously bring that to market. Okay, so let me keep going here. Right, so one of the other strengths of the solution, as hopefully you guys are familiar with, is the very, very rich captive portal environments and self-registrations and all of these sorts of things that we have. So whether it's for doing device onboarding, whether it's for sponsoring guests or registering devices, Air Group, as Bala's going to show you shortly, or also our third-party integration. So we've got some great case studies of customers developing and writing to our APIs to integrate sort of guest access or provisioning into a lobby management system, into a patient check-in system at hospitals, into event registration for a conference and things like that. So what I wanted to highlight as well is some of our capabilities around the branding. So often vendors provide very, very poor branding as it relates to a captive portal experience and what the guests see. And we take a different approach. We think that the branding and the end user experience is actually really, really critical to minimizing help desk, to promoting your own brand, to making things look good, making sure that if I access this on an iPhone or an Android, it's going to render properly versus if I access it on a traditional sort of laptop or something like that. So we've got these great skinning capabilities. We can create these very, very rich captive portal environments, render specifically for mobile devices. You can put advertising on there. You can put drop-down menus, self-registration questionnaires. So again, not only is this an enterprise identity access management solution, but this same technology can be used in a whole lot of public access environments, high-density sporting stadiums, like Chuck was just talking to you guys about. So that whole end-user experience and the enrollment workflow is a key part of the technology that we use. So I just wanted to show you guys a couple of those examples there. And the final demo that I wanted to show for you was actually onboarding of an iOS 6 device. So you guys probably saw the announcements on Wednesday about the new technology. So I've got an iPod Touch here somewhere. Up the front. Right, now, the only problem is, because it's an iOS 6 and it's an iPod Touch, we can't project it onto the screen. We've been plugging about 6 different cables into it this morning and haven't been able to do that. So, but I did want to walk you guys through it. I'm happy to pass it around and experience it, just to show you guys that we are ready for iOS 6. What we're going to be doing on this device as well is not just onboarding it in terms of getting it a cert and putting it onto the network, but also enforcing a passcode policy out of the box, right? So without MDM, without taking any management, forcing a passcode, which has the secondary effect of actually encrypting the file system. So let me move around the front here. So first of all, I might just ask somebody to verify that this is indeed a iPhone version 6, or iOS version 6, sorry. The iPhone 6 is probably still a way away. Okay, good-o, thank you. So going to associate to the corporate SSID. All right, so anyway, POC employee. So I'm going to walk down the list here. Okay, so let me just connect to the network just to show you guys.
Carlos, if you hold it up to the camera.
Yeah, actually, maybe that's a better. Up to the camera up here?
No, you don't. Just come back to where you were.
Oh, sorry.
Just hold it steady.
Okay, how's that?
That's good technology.
It's like you're posing.
He's a model.
All right, so let me, I don't know how I'm going to be able to type like this, but all right, I'll do the typing like this and then
Is Price is Right still on the air? Because you can apply for a job.
I think you have all the credentials you need.
all right, so we're going to kick off the process here. So it's going to ask me, do I want to verify the install of the profile, which I will do. Okay, so now you see it's asking me to install a passcode as part of this policy. So I'll go in here and put, 7412. That's not my banking PIN, by the way.
Doesn't matter, they're all released.
All right, so the profile's installed, done. So I now, I'm back at my sort of screen and I can click on connect and get on there. I'm not sure where we are with the internet access and whether this is going to connect back in, but let me just click on connect to show it, pull down the Wi-Fi and try and pull it back up there. It should. There we go, it's gone. And the Wi-Fi, there it's the Wi-Fi back again. So let me see if I can go to Google or something. There we go. So now I'm, in a live sort of session. So that's iOS 6 getting onboarded with a passcode policy. I just wanted to show you guys one additional thing. If I now go to the profile, and being a dev box, we've got about 20 of them on here. So if I go here, mobile device enrollment, and more details, you'll see now we've got that password policy as part of the profile. Now, if I go and do something such as go into my settings, because I know how to work an iOS device, and say, right, let's look at general and my passcode lock 74. Right, let's just say, well, actually, I'm going to turn my passcode off. I don't want to, worry about doing that. So I turn it off. Okay, so that's good. So I was like, wow, well, I've just bypassed that. But then what we should see is, bang, all of a sudden iOS says, hey, hold on a minute. You need a passcode in order for this device to operate. So if I don't go and set that passcode again, it'll delete that entire profile and I won't be able to associate to the network. Okay, so this really should be the first step that anybody takes in terms of provisioning, a corporate device or even a BYOD device, if for nothing else because of the encryption of the file system. But it is your first level of defense against a stolen device. It's easy to think about very, very heavy management solutions, but a passcode is a very simple first line of defense. So that's what I wanted to show you from the demo perspective. You just finish up a couple of things here and then pass it over to Bala. So the final piece that I just wanted to remind everybody about was the clustering and the scalability that we have built into the ClearPass solution. So we can support 25,000 endpoints on a single appliance. That's quite a bit more than some of the other appliances that are out there. All of them are fully active in a cluster. So every single appliance can participate in policy decisions, in reporting, in onboarding, in guest access, in profiling. You don't need to have different personas. You don't need to have dedicated nodes to do certain things. They're all in a cluster. They all work. And we will happily support up to 1 million endpoints in an active cluster. So at Aruba, we obviously have very, very large customers. And not only that, with the explosion of all of these sorts of devices, you just need to really scale up that capability. So from that perspective, we really think we have an incredibly scalable solution. We use 64-bit VMs so that we can, pump up the memory and get more resources into the virtualized versions of the policy manager. And obviously the appliances come with enterprise grade kind of equipment, dual power supplies, those sorts of things to help for redundancy. So I just wanted to highlight that, because one of the things that we've gotten with the converged product now, we had a lot of guest access customers, for example, that wanted to do clustering across multiple data centers, across multiple geographies. And one of the things that we've got now with the converged product is we're able to offer all of the features around guest onboarding as part of this cluster. So whether it's the guest access that we provide at Disneyland, or some of our larger corporate customers that have got data centers all around the world. I mean, we've got certain customers that are upwards of 10,000 just from a guest perspective of 10,000 endpoints, right? Forget corporate access.
Is there a way to get a small-scale version of this to lab?
Absolutely. Yeah, so we provide either VMware or hardware versions, and happy to provide each of you a VMware version to play around with for sure.